Before we crown a mystery phone as Samsung's next revolution, let's hit pause. That SMF971U spot in the GSMA database is real. But the headlines jump into brand new Square Galaxy Z Fold with an H8 coding name launching alongside the Z Fold 8 are running way ahead of the evidence. In this script, I'm breaking down why these leaks don't add up, what this model number is more likely to represent, and the concrete signals we actually need to see before believing the hype. A database entry is not a launch announcement. The GSMA and IMEI listings are often the first breadcrumbs for new devices, but they also include engineering samples, carrier test units, and placeholder SKUs that never see daylight. Seeing SMF971U show up first with the U suffix simply tells us one thing: a United States variant is in testing. It does not confirm global availability, final specs, form factor, display ratio, or even that this device will be sold to consumers. U.S. carriers regularly begin certification early, which is why U entries surface before other regions. Now, about Samsung's model number logic. Recent generations follow a pattern: SMF7X for Galaxy Z Flip, SMF9XX for Galaxy Z Fold, Fold 6 was SMF956, Flip 6 was SMF741, and the expected Z Fold 8 would logically be SMF976. That part of the rumor is fine. But the leap from F971 does not equal Flip to F971 equals radical new fold category with a Square 8 and 8 inner display and brand new H8 coding name is where the narrative breaks. Samsung has exceptions across its lineup for Fairlight, carrier-specific, and region-specific devices that don't map cleanly to public product names. An SMF971 could just as easily be a cost-reduced Fold FE Lite for 2026. A U-specific hardware variant with different M-Wave antennas, or an internal hinge and display testbed that exists purely for engineering validation. Coding names are not contracts. Yes, you'll see references to Q8 for the standard Galaxy Z Fold 8 and whispers of an H8 track. This is normal inside large R&D organizations. Multiple prototypes move in parallel with different hinges, display suppliers, and aspect ratios competing until late in development. Coding names change, projects merge, and some get shelved. Unless those coding names are reflected in multi-region certifications, panel orders, and One UI developer tools, they're just experiments. A year before launch, Samsung would already be locking panel specs with Samsung Display or Bayo for a mainstream flagship. A truly new Square form factor would trigger wider, louder supply chain chatter than a single listing. Let's talk about that near Square 8x8 inner display claim, because it's the weakest link. An almost square inner panel sounds bold, but it's not user-friendly for most Android apps. Video is shot for 16:9 or 21:9. Square means constant letterboxing. Social feeds, web pages, and games are optimized around taller layouts. Developers would need to rework UI for a niche aspect ratio, and even then, media playback would waste space. Meanwhile, the industry trend is converging on pragmatic tablet, like ratios such as 8:7.1 or 7:9, which balance multitasking, continuity with the cover screen, and media usability. Look at devices like the OnePlus OpenFind N2 and Huawei's Mate. Series near Square is a rarity for a reason. Hardware realities make Square even harder. Wider panels increase stress at the hinge, demand stiffer frames, and complicate crease management. Yield rates on large, unconventional UTG ultra-thin glass panels are already challenging. Shipping an 1818 foldable at scale in 2026 will require significant retooling, robust hinge redesign, and a compelling software story that Samsung hasn't previewed yet. If Samsung were truly embracing a Square foldable, we'd expect to see One UI betas teasing Square-optimized layouts, emulator profiles for developers, or at least hints in documentation. So far, silence. The shorter and wider cover screen talking point is more plausible because the narrow cover on current Z Fold models is a common complaint. But making the cover wider while going square inside creates conflicting priorities: pocketability versus weight, durability versus battery capacity, and app compatibility versus visual consistency. A measured move to a slightly wider cover with a near tablet inner ratio is realistic. A sudden jump to square is not. Unless Samsung is ready to overhaul One UI and rally developers around a new layout paradigm moves that tend to leave a trail of evidence months in advance. What about the idea that Samsung will launch two premium folds in 2026, the Z Fold 8Q8 and a separate high-end H8 in parallel? It's possible, but it's also risky and doesn't fit the clean segmentation that currently works. Flip for compact style, fold for productivity. If Samsung adds a second fold, the most logical options are a cost-friendly Fold Fei-like to grow the category, or a Z Fold Ultra that refines cameras, materials, and hinge tech for enthusiasts. Both are far easier to message than an all-new square category that fragments accessories, cases, and app optimization. The Apple factor is a convenient headline, but it's not proof. Analysts are split on Apple's timeline, and many believe Apple will test foldable tech in an iPad-class product before attempting an iPhone-class foldable, reacting to rumors of an Apple foldable by fast-tracking a square Galaxy Fold isn't Samsung's style. The company moves quickly, but its mass-market form factors are iterative, deliberate, and grounded in supply chain readiness and software maturity. So what is SMF971U likely to be? The boring answer is the most realistic. It could be a US-specific Galaxy Z Fold variant with different radios for carriers and away bands. It could be an Fei-like model that reuses proven hinge and panel tech to hit a lower price point in 2026. It could be an internal platform to validate battery chemistry, hinge tolerances, or UTG revisions. All of these fit the model number pattern without rewriting the playbook or demanding a square screen. And no, the U suffix does not mean use only. Samsung suffixes simply indicate region variants: U for the US, B for Europe, N for Korea, and so on. The US entries often appear first because carrier testing has longer lead times and stricter certification. If this is a real consumer product, we'll see the other suffixes surface in Bluetooth SIG listings, FCC filings, 3C antenna databases, and IMEI registries across regions. Until that happens, calling this a US exclusive is premature. If Samsung truly intended to ship a square foldable, the breadcrumbs would be bigger and broader. Suppliers would leak retooled hinges and new UTG specs. Panel orders would point to unusual aspect ratios. One UI betas would hint at new layout behaviors for square canvases. Case makers and screen protector listings would reveal exact dimensions months ahead. Instead, we have a single GSMA entry and a lot of confident storytelling layered on top. Follow the business math. Foldables win when they become more durable, more affordable, and more consistent for apps. The fastest path to growth is a refined Z Fold 8 with a more comfortable cover screen, better cameras, lighter chassis, and stronger hinge and a lower price Fold Fei-like that opens the door for new buyers. If Samsung wants a halo, a Z Fold Ultra with upgraded optics and materials is far easier to market than a square experiment that breaks compatibility and drives up costs. Here's what's worth watching next if you care about facts over fantasy. Do we see SMF971B, SMF971N, or other regional variants appear in certification databases? Do panel supply reports from Samsung Display or Bo mention broader or square inner panels tied to 2026 timelines? Do One UI betas or developer docs surface new guidelines for square or near square layout optimization? Do accessory leaks cases, protectors, hinges show a noticeably different footprint? Those are the signals that precede shipping hardware, not a single region code in a database.